right. Amy Jacobson here. John Anthony and Dan Croft coming in.
Hey.
Appreciate it. You son of a... Come on. I think everybody's heard it now, but in case you haven't, President Biden got a little lippy yesterday. I don't know if he was losing his marbles, trying to be sarcastic.
Losing?
Well, he's in front of a microphone, okay? When you're in front of a microphone, it could be a hot mic moment at any point in time.
Mr. President, could you give us a brief update on your call with European leaders on what's happening in Ukraine today?
The only reason I don't like doing this is you never report on why I've called a meeting. And this is really important. I had a very, very, very good meeting, total unanimity with all the European leaders. We'll talk about it later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why are you sending 8,500 troops to Ukraine, possibly?
Will you take questions on inflation then? Thank you. Thank you all. Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a...
And what he was asking was, okay, what about inflation? Do you think inflation is a political liability in the midterms? That was
It is.
Peter Ducey asked. Well, yeah. And then Peter Ducey went on and talked about his feelings. How does that make you feel?
Well, the White House and the communications officials here had been signaling last week when they had their first year in office anniversary that they were going to take a different approach with reporters. And we thought that meant after he did the 2-hour press conference, he's just going to be available for Q&A more often. But maybe it's more stuff like this.
Might be. Well, it's good that you can smile.
Well, if I don't smile, I'm just going to be a ball of tears, and I can't because I have to do a hit with Brett Baer in 10 minutes. So.
But then, guess what? He got a call from, the big guy.
Big guy.
The big guy. That's how Hunter described him, because we got to give a cut to the big guy.
After years of clips of the president and I kind of mixing it up on the campaign trail and during the transition and here at the White House, within about an hour of that exchange, he called my cell phone. And he said, "It's nothing personal, pal." And we went back and forth, and we were talking about just kind of moving forward. And I made sure to tell him that I'm always going to try to ask something different than what everybody else is asking. And he said, "You've got to." And that's a quote from the president, so I'll keep doing it.
With more on this, let's welcome back our very, very dear friend, the one and only Ed Morrissey. He's senior editor for hotair.com. Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Good morning, Amy. Good morning, John.
Hey,
Doing
good
great.
morning.
How about yourselves?
Yeah, so what did you think of the SOB comment, huh? How did he not know after decades in Washington that when you're in front of a microphone, it could be on?
Actually, I thought it was the most connected he'd been to reality in a long time. I mean, he's very aware now that inflation is going to be a big political problem for Democrats. I mean, that's sort of the gist of what he was saying. He was being sarcastic by saying, "No, it's going to be a great asset." What an idiot! I don't know how much we can actually how closely I can quote this on Salem's Air, but this is akin to George Bush calling Adam Clymer an expletive, let's say, in front of a mic at a rally. To me, I think that Peter Ducey and Sean Hannity last night, when Ducey was explaining the phone call from Biden, I think they took exactly the right tone. This is kind of just an amusing aside. It makes Biden not look terribly good. It makes Ducey look like he is living rent-free in Biden's head. I think that's great for Ducey, probably great for Fox News, too. And I think it's a lot of fun to talk about, but I don't know that it's any more meaningful than that.
Yeah, I was just surprised that the mainstream media, I mean, I watched NBC Nightly News, I watched ABC News, CNN, and they all talked about it. They didn't shy away from it, which really pleasantly surprised me. Could they be coming around, Ed Morrissey, or is this just a one and done?
I'm not sure that they're coming around because, when they were talking about this type of thing, when George Bush did it 22 years ago, they were talking about it like it was an affront to democracy. And we got this, weekly, if not daily, during the Trump administration, because Donald Trump, this was the way he treated most reporters, and on a pretty constant basis. And so yesterday it was, you had some of the people saying, he was just being sarcastic and trying to excuse it away. And I think that the hypocrisy is also a lot of fun to note. But again, not hypocrites anyway.
Right. Yeah. All right, let's move on to Ukraine and a pending war that probably Joe Biden wants right now to reset his presidency. But the State Department, they reduced staff at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, and they ordered family members to leave. Knowing what happened in Afghanistan, would you have already booked your ticket?
Well, yeah, I mean, as a private citizen, but I got to be honest, I'm not sure why we're pulling staff, maybe the families, but I'm not sure why we're pulling staff out of there. Even if this isn't Afghanistan, even if the Russians do invade, they're not going to attack embassies. These aren't. This isn't a radical terrorist cabal that's looking to annihilate everybody in their path. They're not going to disturb embassies. They're not going to disturb diplomatic personnel. So I'm not exactly sure why they're doing that, and the EU isn't sure either. Joseph Borrell yesterday was asked by reporters, hey, the U.S. is pulling people out of Ukraine. When is the EU going to do it? And Borrell said, we don't know why the U.S. is doing it. They haven't explained it to us, but we don't see any reason to pull people out of there. And I'm not sure that there really is. I think that I think is an overreaction based on Joe Biden's disastrous press conference and the whole minor incursion thing, and now he wants to look tough by retreating, which is a very odd construct.
Well, who do you trust? I don't trust a word Biden says, because remember on July 4th, COVID's going to be in the rearview mirror, so I don't trust him at all.
Right.
And a number of things that he said, especially with this. And then what happened in Afghanistan? Do you trust the State Department, the Pentagon? I mean, is there any, anyone at all that you can rely on?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think that it's no secret that Putin sees Ukraine as a strategic part of Russia. I don't think anybody's disputing that. We got an up close and personal look at that in 2014 when he seized Crimea and occupied the Donbass. I mean, technically, you don't have Russian troops in there, but they're basically Russian proxies that have occupied the Donbass. And he wants to make sure that he has buffers between himself and NATO. And Ukraine, Belarus, that was the reason why he invaded Georgia in 2008 and seized Abkhazia and South Ossetia. And, I mean, this is part of a pattern for Putin. So, I mean, that to me is a no-brainer. What I am still unclear on is why succeeding American administrations have not figured this out until now.
Yeah. And, you know, Ed, I'm sorry, but I'm not worried about the paper tiger Russia. I'm worried about what China's doing. They're quiet right now. And you look at, I personally think China is the bigger issue for America. I think they've always been the bigger issue for America. What are your thoughts about what China and Russia, you think there's some collusion there? You know, hey, you go and make some noise while we're doing what?
Well, absolutely. I think that our policy has more or less allowed them to collaborate. I wouldn't call it collusion. I'd just call it collaboration. I think that they're acting strategically together. They've been doing that for years. And I would also caution that don't discount Russia. Russia is still a military power. Russia is still an economic power. Our energy policy is strengthening their economic power by allowing prices to increase for oil and other energy products. And that is pumping money into Putin's pocket so he can do things like this. Don't discount Russia. Russia is malevolent. Russia is a serious, I wouldn't say enemy, but I would say something between hostile and unfriendly entity to the United States.
One more quick question. So you remember when Joe Biden was thinking about running, and then when he finally declared, they basically said that Trump's Justice Department was off limits to Joe Biden. Should Trump declare that he's running now so that Joe Biden's Justice Department is off limits to Trump?
I guess you could make that argument. I think he's got other fish to fry at the moment, though. The problem with declaring is that then all of a sudden all of your activities come under the scrutiny of the FEC, which is the reason why candidates postpone a formal announcement as long as they possibly can in a competitive environment. So I wouldn't anticipate any sort of anything like that until probably a year from now. Would probably be the earliest that Trump would do that. But in that sense, I think as soon as it's feasible and he can make sure that he disentangles himself from other activities so that the FEC doesn't pry into them, yeah, absolutely. I think it makes sense for him then, if he's going to run, to declare so that he can get that sort of buffer.
Yeah.
So over the week, or not over the weekend, while we were sleeping, California is now trying to impose a vaccine mandate for all students, K through 12. They also no more cloth masks at LA Unified School District. They all have to be N95 masks. Biden's sending out 400 million masks. Do you think that's a little too late for all of this?
Yes, especially with Omicron, right? I mean, Omicron, masking is a mitigation strategy, right? And it makes some sense when you are dealing with a truly novel virus that nobody has any immunity to. But now that you've got Omicron spreading through the population like wildfire, and you have, around 230 million Americans that are fully vaccinated, maybe not boosted, but have the 2 shots of the mRNA or the 1 shot of Johnson & Johnson, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do this, especially with kids, because kids are not a vector for COVID, especially smaller kids. They're just simply not. I mean, the data from schools, both in the United States and in Europe, shows that they don't generate community transmission, or they don't boost community transmission. So it makes no sense to mask the kids up. It makes no sense to vaccinate the kids specifically for that purpose, or maybe you have the reasons to vaccinate the kids, but I'm not sure that we have the science on that yet either.
Yeah. Wow.
When do you think this is going to end? 2024, 2023? What's your prediction?
October 2022.
Really?
Right before the
right
election.
before the
huh?
election, because people are
That's
going
my
to be
firm prediction. My
even
firm
the liberals
prediction
are
is
so sick of it.
Wait, Ed. Here in Highland Park, there's a mandate shutdown until February 14th. So that probably plays into what you're trying to say there.
Yeah, because you need the Valentine's Day crowd.
Yeah, you gotta go fill those restaurants.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Ed Morrissey,
exactly.
thank you so much. We always appreciate when you're on the program with your knowledge and expertise. We appreciate it, and we'll have you back soon.
Thank you so much.
Take
Thanks.
care.
Ed Morrissey, senior editor for hotair.com, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
You know what you could do? You could add onto your house an extra room and fill it with white, fluffy sand that feels like the beach.
Pump in seagull sounds.
Paint waves on the walls.
And cute little sand crabs.
Hey, it's Ryan from United Faith Mortgage, and maybe